The eviction notice felt like a punch to the gut. The officer barely made eye contact as he placed the envelope in my hands, mumbling some legal formality about property disputes. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I didn't even bother to explain myself. Instead, I reached into my worn leather folder, pulled out a century-old piece of paper, and slid it across the table. The clerk's eyes widened as he realized what he was looking at, the 1923 water rights deed, signed in my great-grandfather's hand. I didn't need to say a word, because that fragile document spoke louder than anything. In that moment, I knew Willowbrook Estates was doomed. But let me back up. My name is Jake Morrison, 34 years old, third-generation owner of 47 acres just outside Austin, Texas. My grandfather, Pops, as everyone called him, bought this land in 1955, when Austin was still more barbecue joints and cow pastures than tech startups. Pops was a man of the soil. He believed land wasn't just something you owned. It was something you cared for. In 1978, he built a modest earth dam on our property. Nothing fancy, just solid engineering to collect rainwater for cattle and, when needed, feed the downstream neighbors during dry years. He worked with the Army Corps of Engineers, making sure every permit, every drawing, every safety measure was bulletproof. Pops used to say, "One day, Jake, this land will be worth more than you can imagine. But until then, treat it right. Life has a funny way of testing promises." I left Texas to serve 2 tours in Afghanistan. My specialty, water management and infrastructure. You learn a lot about water in a war zone, how far people will go for it, how precious every drop becomes. But while I was overseas, Pops passed away. The land went into a trust, managed by my sister Sarah in California. She meant well, but she didn't know a thing about Texas land law. She hired a property company to pay the taxes and assumed all was fine. Big mistake. Enter the villain of this story, Margaret Maggie Thornwell, 52, president of Willowbrook Estates HOA and queen of the Stepford suburbs. Maggie was the type who wore tennis outfits like business suits and drove a white BMW X7. She parked at the HOA clubhouse like it was her throne. Her husband, Rick, a city councilman, greased the wheels whenever she needed a zoning change or a permit fast-tracked. Together, they were a suburban power couple, drunk on entitlement. Maggie's HOA had a reputation for beautification projects, which was her polite way of forcing anyone she didn't like out of the neighborhood. And when she saw my land sitting unused, she pounced. By the time I came home in August 2023, Pop's pastures weren't rolling hills anymore. They were construction sites. Concrete trucks rumbled where cattle once grazed. Bright orange survey flags stabbed into the earth like little insults. I remember stepping out of my truck, gravel crunching under my boots, feeling a surge of anger so strong I could almost taste metal on my tongue. A foreman in a hard hat waved me off, muttering, "Sorry, buddy. This is Willowbrook Estates property now. We've got all the permits." I called the sheriff. Officer Martinez showed up, awkward and apologetic, explaining that the HOA had filed an adverse possession claim. Because the land hadn't been actively used, they argued it was abandoned. Maggie herself rolled up in her golf cart, all sugar-sweet poison. "Your family left this land behind, honey," she cooed, as if she were doing me a favor. "We're just putting it to good use, for the community." Her words stung. But what cut deepest? Her crews had already diverted the creek, feeding Pop's dam. The water level was dropping every day, and with it, 45 years of careful stewardship. As I stood by the shrinking reservoir, Maggie's parting shot echoed in my ears. "Should have stayed closer to home, soldier boy." That was when I knew. This wasn't just a land dispute. It was war. At first, I hired a lawyer. He quoted me $85,000 just to challenge zoning. I realized quickly that money, politics, and paperwork were Maggie's battlefield. Mine was different. While that lawyer shuffled papers, I dug through dusty county records like I was sweeping for IEDs in Kabul. And there, in brittle folders and fading ink, I found my weapons. Pop's original 1978 federal dam permits. Ironclad proof that the structure fell under U.S. Army Corps jurisdiction. Local HOAs couldn't touch it. And then the crown jewel, a 1923 deed, granting my great-grandfather senior water rights to the entire Willow Creek watershed. Older than the county, older than the city, older than every McMansion Maggie had planted on my soil. Meanwhile, Maggie played the victim. She staged an HOA meeting for the local news, standing on her manicured lawn in pearls, fake tears streaming, as she said, "We're just so concerned about our children's safety. That dam looks ready to burst, and families live downstream." The cameras loved her. The truth? The dam had passed every inspection with flying colors. But facts don't trend. Fear does. She even posted on Nextdoor, warning about unstable individuals in the community. She didn't name me, but she didn't need to. Everyone knew. I didn't respond. I waited. Then came the day. I stood at Pop's Dam at sunset. Cicadas screaming in the Texas heat, the reservoir shimmering like molten gold. Below me sprawled Willowbrook Estates, smug and fragile, with its vinyl fences and manicured hedges. My hand gripped the cold steel lever of the spillway gates. Pop's voice echoed in memory. "Take care of the land, and the land will take care of you." The lever groaned. Metal shrieked. First a trickle, then a torrent. The water surged forward, unleashed with the fury of decades. Gravity did the rest. The flood tore downhill, swallowing backyards and snapping fences. Golf carts bobbed like bath toys. Tennis courts became swimming pools. The McMansions, those shrines to arrogance, stood helpless as muddy water lapped at their designer patios. Residents screamed, hauling pets and patio furniture to higher ground. Chaos reigned, and then Maggie arrived. Her BMW's headlights cut through the storm. Her hair wild, mascara streaked. She stumbled into waist-deep water, pointing at me with a trembling hand. "You'll pay for this, Morrison," she screeched. I raised the yellowed water deed, high into the wind. "This was never yours, Maggie," I called back, calm as the flood roared around us. And now, it never will be. By morning, Willowbrook Estates was half submerged. The HOA was ruined. Insurance companies refused coverage for building downstream of a federally recognized dam. Rick Thornwell's political career evaporated in scandal. Maggie's empire crumbled overnight. As for me, I stood beneath the old oak tree where my initials were carved, watching the sun rise over land once again mine. The water glistened, calm now, like a guardian that had done its duty. And for the first time in years, I felt Pops beside me, smiling with pride. His land, my land, our land, safe again.